Senator Cramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Inhofe. And thanks, gentlemen, for being here. As I've been listening to all of this, I'm struck by the fact that several people have referenced the miscalculation of things, whether it's the intelligence community, and, through the intelligence itself or analysis of intelligence or the communication of intelligence. It does seem like for the last 20 years or so, we've been miscalculating on the wrong side the capabilities for whether it's Afghanistan and Iraq to reconstitute, or ISIS or ISIS-K in Afghanistan. And I don't know what the answer is going forward, but management of expectations sometimes becomes part of the formula, I'm afraid. And I worry a little bit about that, you guys. And that is to say, maybe I'll put it in the form of a question for you, Secretary Collin. This is just an honest, raw, almost spontaneous question. Do you feel, whether it's just a feeling or whether it's deliberate, do you get a sense of political pressure in your job to communicate something other than the worst news possible at any given moment? I know there's not a strategic advantage to that from a military standpoint, but politically, do you feel that as a political nominee?
I've never felt that personally, and I try to call it as I see it. But I do think it is true what you said at the outset, which is on a number of issues there's been, as it relates to Afghanistan, there's been serial miscalculation probably over 2 decades. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot of consequence to that. Like I said, we can have a longer talk sometime about how to do that better, obviously. I'm going to just get to one point related to the miscalculation of ISIS-K and maybe talk about what we do know or what you might know, if we can talk about it here and if not later in the closed session. I mean, how financially healed is ISIS-K? And as part of the calculation, obviously, that's a big part of it. How well off are they financially, do you think?
I don't have a precise number of what's in the bank. I don't think they are nearly as well resourced as ISIS in Iraq and Syria were back at the heyday. Think the kind of 2014, 2015 timeframe when ISIS controlled all those oil wells and had $1 billion of annual revenue. It's nothing like that. I think for the moment, ISIS-K is mostly focused on creating havoc within Afghanistan. But they do have a cadre of a few thousand folks, some of which would love to conduct external attacks. ISIS-K is obviously linked to the broader ISIS network globally. And so I think we have to be vigilant that a subset of ISIS-K could develop the resources and the capability to strike outward toward the U.S. homeland. And as General Mingus said, we have to be poised to disrupt that so that that never comes to pass. So
regarding your statement about raise havoc within, obviously that can be part of the strategy to access generosity and acquire both financial resources and recruitment resources. I mean, how do you sense that's going for them?
I've not seen a lot of evidence that they've, going back to the Iraq example, ISIS was able to knock off a bank in Mosul and seize hundreds of millions of dollars of Iraqi money. There's been no version of that that I'm aware of. I also think that the Taliban is pretty committed to going after ISIS-K. I don't think there's a willpower question there. Taliban capability to be determined, but they're pretty intent on doing it. So I've not seen huge gains by ISIS-K. We have seen them carry out some horrific bombings against minority populations inside Afghanistan. I think we should expect that some of that will continue. But from a U.S. national interest perspective, we have to be particularly focused on the subset of the threat streams that could emanate outward towards us.
Do you worry about all of this, again, raising havoc, as you put it, and what you've just described, is inspiring to others, whether it's, again, it could be Al-Qaeda for that matter as well, but whether it's financial resources or recruitment?
I do think that that's something we have to watch. I think the Taliban is not keen for a lot of Arab foreign fighters and others to flow into Afghanistan, frankly, for either Al-Qaeda or ISIS-K. I do think we have to look about how events in Afghanistan or anywhere else in the world, could be Nigeria, could be Somalia, could be Yemen, could be Syria, can have a galvanizing effect on the internet and elsewhere that inspires recruits. And I know that the Department of Homeland Security and our intelligence community is pretty focused on that.
General, anything you'd add to any of that?
If you look at kind of how we parse a violent extremist organization out and how you analyze our ensuing level efforts. The threat itself, whether it's internally, externally focused, does it have host nation capacity that can interdict that? The will and the intent and the capacity and the capability. Right now, as Dr. Call pointed out, they're internally focused, and the capacity and capability to be externally focused is still limited. Our efforts in the months going ahead, and as we continue to improve our over-the-horizon architecture, is to ensure that that external capability never comes to fruition.
Thank you both. Thank you.